They walked her off the flight deck in silence. No salute, no words, just cold stares and heavy footsteps echoing against the steel. She carried nothing but a small duffel. To the rest of the crew, she was erased, forgotten. But minutes later, a classified nuclear submarine, hidden deep beneath the waves, did the unthinkable. It broke protocol for her. And in that moment, every man and woman in uniform realized she was not just another sailor. The steel deck of the carrier buzzed with the familiar rhythm of jet engines roaring and sailors calling out commands. But as she stepped onto the long stretch of the flight deck, the world around her seemed to fall into an unnatural hush. Every sound felt muffled, as though the ocean itself had chosen to hold its breath. She carried nothing more than a weathered duffel bag slung over one shoulder, her uniform pressed but stripped of any sign of honor or rank. 2 escorts walked on either side of her, not a word spoken, their eyes fixed forward, their faces carved in stone. Sailors stopped mid-task to watch, their curiosity barely concealed, yet not one dared to salute, nod, or whisper her name. She walked with a posture that demanded respect, shoulders squared, chin lifted, but the silence cut deeper than any insult. Tradition on the carrier dictated that every sailor leaving after service, whether in honor or in shame, was given a send-off, some form of recognition. But here there was nothing. It was as though she had been erased from the ship's memory, dismissed without explanation, as if her years aboard had meant nothing at all. And yet, even as she moved with calm, measured steps, her heart raced with questions she dared not voice. Why this cold dismissal? What was hidden behind the eyes of those who avoided hers? Why, after all she had endured, was she being erased so easily? The salty wind whipped across her face, stinging her eyes, but she refused to falter. She could feel the weight of every gaze pressing against her back, the unspoken judgment heavy in the air. Still, she pressed forward, each step echoing louder than the last, an act of defiance wrapped in silence. Far below the rolling surface of the ocean, where light struggled to reach in silence reigned absolute, a nuclear submarine cut steadily through the depths. Inside its steel belly, a crew of elite sailors moved with precision, their lives governed by protocol as strict as the laws of physics. Nothing on board ever deviated from the plan. Every course, every order, every maneuver was calculated and absolute. Yet, on this day, something shifted. A single coded message came across the secure line, one that made the captain's brow tighten and his crew exchange uneasy glances. It was not a command. It was a name, just a name, spoken without explanation, pulsing through encrypted signals until it landed in their hands. The captain gripped the slip of paper, his jaw tightening as memories he had buried long ago flickered across his mind. That name was not unfamiliar. It carried with it shadows of missions classified beyond belief, sacrifices never spoken aloud, and debts no sailor could repay. Without hesitation, he stood from his chair and gave an order that froze the control room. "Change course," he said firmly, eyes steady but voice carrying the weight of something unshakable. The helmsman hesitated, knowing such a move without authorization was an act that could end careers, even lives. But when the captain's voice came again, sharp and commanding, no one dared question him. Slowly, the great vessel groaned as its massive hull tilted against the currents, altering its path through the dark waters. The crew whispered among themselves in hushed tones, aware they were now sailing into dangerous ground, breaking protocol for reasons unknown. Yet deep within, they sensed this was no mistake. Whoever she was, wherever she had been sent, the submarine was moving for her. Back on the carrier, silence hung heavier than the sea air. The crew went about their duties, but something felt off, as if a ghost had passed through the steel halls and left the air colder than before. The young sailors whispered when the officers weren't listening, their voices carrying fragments of questions they didn't dare ask aloud. Who was she? Why no salute? Why no explanation? A few had caught the way the senior chiefs had clenched their jaws, their eyes deliberately turned away as she was escorted off. It wasn't neglect. It wasn't shame. It was something deeper, something unspoken. In the mess hall that evening, a rumor flickered like a spark in dry grass. Someone swore they saw her once in an old mission report, her name hidden among redacted lines, tied to an operation no one dared mention. Another claimed she had once disappeared for nearly a year, only to return with a medal no one had ever seen before, pinned silently to her chest. The officers ignored the talk, but their silence was the loudest answer of all. Beneath the surface, tension grew. The youngest sailors felt it most. They couldn't understand why a fellow sailor would be erased so cleanly from the deck, as though she had never belonged. And yet, at the same time, none of them could shake the feeling that she carried something greater than rank, greater than protocol. That night, as the sun sank and the sea turned black, a handful of sailors climbed to the edge of the carrier to stare out at the endless horizon. They didn't know why, but each one of them felt it in their bones. Her story wasn't finished. Somewhere out there, the ocean itself seemed to be waiting for her. Far below the carrier, hidden in the crushing black of the ocean, a nuclear submarine glided silently through the depths. Inside its steel walls, everything was routine. Men at their stations, orders followed with precision, the hum of machinery steady as a heartbeat. But then, a message arrived. It was short, unmarked, and carried no signature, just a set of coordinates.
No explanation. No protocol.
And yet, every sailor aboard felt the shift. The captain, a man carved by decades of duty, stared at the paper longer than necessary, his jaw tightening as though he recognized something the crew did not. Without hesitation, he gave the order, alter course. Surface at these coordinates. Gasps spread among the younger sailors, but none dared question him. Nuclear submarines did not break protocol, not for anyone, not without authorization from the highest levels. Yet here they were, turning steel and power against procedure for a message that shouldn't even exist. Hours later, the submarine rose from the depths like a leviathan awakening, its massive hull breaking the waves in silence. On the horizon lay the carrier, a speck against the fading light. The sailors on deck froze as they saw the impossible. Classified steel surfacing without warning, engines cutting through the ocean with purpose. The submarine had no reason to be there, and yet it had come. A low horn echoed across the water, not a warning, not a greeting. Something else, something ceremonial, as though the ocean itself was bowing in her direction. Every man and woman on the carrier felt it in their chest, though no words were spoken. In that moment, there was no rank, no orders, no explanation. Only the undeniable truth that she was the reason a submarine broke silence. The carrier stood frozen as the submarine loomed beside it. Steel against steel, silence against silence. No protocol allowed this. No book could explain it. Yet every sailor felt the gravity of the moment. She stood at the edge of the pier now, her sea bag slung over her shoulder, her boots heavy on the metal deck. Her eyes, calm yet unreadable, reflected the fading sun as if she had already accepted what others could not. Then it happened. The submarine's crew, lined along its deck, raised their hands. Not in salute, but in something deeper, something ancient. A gesture that spoke of reverence beyond uniform and beyond command. No words were shouted, no orders given. But the air was alive with recognition that could not be erased. The officers on the carrier shifted uncomfortably, realizing too late what they had dismissed, what they had quietly escorted away as if she were invisible. She turned once toward them, her face neither bitter nor broken, just carrying the weight of truth they would never grasp. The horn of the submarine thundered again, rolling across the water, a sound that felt less like machinery and more like an oath sworn in steel and salt. And then, without explanation, the submarine dipped back into the deep, vanishing beneath the waves, taking its secret with it. The carrier remained still, its crew forever marked by what they had witnessed but could never explain. She walked away without looking back, her footsteps steady, her figure fading into the horizon. To most, she was just a sailor without a goodbye. But to those who saw the impossible that day, she was proof that some stories are never written in records, but in silence, sacrifice, and the echoes of the deep. Sparkles, if this story moved you, show your support with a like, comment, and share. Bell subscribe to Unheard Heroes for more powerful untold stories that deserve to be remembered.